Snowplow drivers on the stand in the Karen Reed murder retrial. Brian Lucky Loughran was working the night of John O'Keefe's death and is recounting what he saw and what he didn't see, including that he did not see John O'Keefe lying in the snow that night. Reed's accused of hitting O'Keefe with her SUV and leaving him to die there. Her defense team says she dropped him off at a party and drove off without incident. I want to bring in ABC News Live anchor Phil Lipof and civil trial attorney Jo-Anna Nieves for more. Phil, what's the latest from the court here?
So this plow driver has been on the stand for the better part of the morning, and he was under direct examination, said basically what he said at the first trial, that he was out there that night in this truck that has lights on the side. He can see forward, diagonal, and straight across 5 to 6 feet. He remembers going down Fairview out in front of the Alberts home at 34. He does not remember seeing anybody lying on this, on the lawn. And it would have been, 3 o'clock in the morning. So according to the prosecution's case, John would have been there if he was hit by Karen Reed. And he's being cross-examined, and they're trying to say, that the defense is doing a good job at saying, well, you don't recall this, but you recall this. It's a long time ago, and he says he didn't see a body. It doesn't mean a body isn't there, is what the prosecution is going to be saying.
I also wanted to get to a big moment yesterday. A police officer from a nearby town testified, saying he was in charge of bringing Karen Reed's SUV from her parents' house to the Sally Port as evidence. But he said that he noticed the taillight wasn't smashed the way that it's later shown to have been damaged in evidence pictures. Walk me through that moment and what that meant for the courtroom.
This,
yesterday.
to me, if I was a juror, would be one of the biggest pieces of evidence in this trial. And by the way, this sergeant from the Dighton, Massachusetts Police Department did not testify in the first trial. So he was working the night that the state police towed Karen Reed's Lexus from her parents' house. And they called the Dighton police just to be there because it was their jurisdiction, help us with the tow. They said, did you see a broken taillight? And he said, yes. There was a chip out of the taillight about 6 inches long, 2 to 3 inches wide. So you're looking at something like that, but it's a big taillight on a Lexus SUV, and you can see it's completely smashed out at the state police Sally Port. And they showed him a picture of that, and he said, well, that's not what it looked like on the scene. That's a big deal because the defense is saying someone smashed that light when it got to state police and then distributed pieces and set my client up.
Jo-Anna, how critical is that to the defense's case here, and how much more do you expect to hear about this, particularly in closing?
Thanks, Diane. I think that they're really going to lay into this in closing arguments. It is a critical part of the case. We got to keep in mind that they don't have to prove how any of these things happen. They just need to raise the reasonable doubt in the juror's mind. And when we're talking about cover-ups and essentially, conspiracies, it really is every little piece of evidence that makes the jury question the credibility of what law enforcement is saying feeds into the defense's theory of the case. And so if a law enforcement officer is saying, I saw a crack, I saw a little chip in there, but it was not this big, that's going to stand out in the jury's mind, especially when you consider other witnesses who are changing their testimony or kind of rolling back on statements that they made, like the Devers that testified yesterday and explained to the FBI an encounter that she saw and then, takes the statement back. All of these things are going to play in the jury's minds of what the defense wants them to believe, that this was a cover-up.
Jo-Anna, I also want to ask you a little bit more, since you brought up Devers' testimony. She had originally said that she saw ATF agent Brian Higgins and the then chief in the Sally Port with the car, unattended for a really long time, Karen Reed's car. And then she amended that statement saying, you know what, my memory was off. But the way that she explained it, it sounded like she was saying she concluded her memory was off because of information that she was getting from the same police department that the defense is trying to say is corrupt. What do you make of the way that whole thing is working and how her justification is going to land here?
I think this is completely this is the reason that the defense called her, even though she was hostile. She wasn't in agreement with of course, her first statement and what they really would have loved to get out of her, this weirdly long time hanging out in the Sally port. But her demeanor and the way she was answering questions, it made her look very, less than credible. I think that many of the jury members, especially those, you're going to have the set of jurors who support law enforcement and really believe that theory, and those that buy into the cover up. And I think that is going to stick with those jurors.
All right, Phil Lipof, Jo-Anna Nieves, thank you both.